Hi guys, I hope you're all doing well. I'm so excited to be finally filming this video. I've been talking about it for ages and I have just literally not even had a chance in the past months to sit down and film it, but I've had my notes written for it for ages now. So today I'm going to be doing a video all about loneliness. A great topic that we all love to run from. A few years ago, I really explored my loneliness for the first time in my life. I explored it when I was 17. I had just moved out of home all by myself. And that's when I first experienced real gut-wrenching, scary loneliness. And I'm just gonna tell you guys, I guess, what I learned from those times, and also just some of my personal thoughts on loneliness and how I currently deal with loneliness in my life now. I think in society we view loneliness to be this negative thing that's like, oh my god, like you're lonely, or like something that it's really hard for a lot of humans to come out and say, I feel lonely, I feel alone. It has such a heavy weight attached to it, like the stigma around loneliness. And guess one of my main objectives with this video is to kind of break that stigma and let you guys know that it is firstly 110 million% normal to feel lonely, and that it is not a bad thing. It's a completely natural human thing. I also want to let you know some of the most popular, happy appearing people with all their shit together. It seems like they got a heap of friends and like a big family and all of that. Like those people too still probably experience loneliness, and every human at some point, if they have yet or they haven't yet experienced loneliness, will experience loneliness. It's just another thing of being human. I grew up being an extremely social person. I still am an extremely social person, but I've learned to value my alone time much more than I used to. But growing up, I never would honestly say I ever felt lonely. I think I'd feel bored sometimes if I wasn't hanging with people, but I never associated it with loneliness, like, and being alone. You know, I lived in my mum's house. I had friends I hung out with, and yeah, in my alone time, I think I would just call it boredom. And then once I moved out of home, so I moved from Brisbane, living with my mum, I moved to Byron and lived by myself as a fresh 17-year-old, and I thought I had my shit together. You know, I'm like, I'm good. You know, I know a few people in Byron, and like I've got some friends here and whatever, and we're good. And then within the first month of being there, I remember just laying on my bed crying and feeling so hollow and just feeling like the biggest failure, the biggest loser, like that no one liked me, that I have gotten myself into this situation that I'm not capable of handling. And this is how I would explain my first experience with feeling loneliness. It really is very daunting, and don't let anyone tell you otherwise. It's a very daunting feeling when you go through it for the first time, or even if you go through it for the 50 millionth time. Loneliness sucks, but in this moment of feeling all of these things, I thought, okay, wow, I feel this way, and like mum's asking how I am, and it's really hard for me to like tell her, like how do I even let those words come out of my mouth? So I'm kind of going, you know, circling around it, being like, I just feel a bit, you know, it's just a bit different being here by myself. Like it's just like, I don't have that many friends yet, and like I'm just a bit like confused on what I'm doing, I guess. And it took me ages to finally come out on the phone and say, I'm lonely, like I miss you, I miss having people around me, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, I'm confused. So when I first started experiencing it, what I would often go to do would be, oh my god, shit, that feeling of loneliness has sunk in. I have just woken up, I have no plans for the day, I have no one to see, I've got nothing to really do, like I've got this day off, and I've just got to fill my time without falling into a lonely hole. So I had many days like that I just kind of sat around being like, ah. But then I took matters into my own hands and I thought, okay, why do you feel like this? And how can we fix this? And what do we need to explore within yourself right now to unlock some things? Maybe we can use these feelings to our advantage. So what I started doing was, when these feelings of loneliness would come up, I would take my journal, and I just really gotten into journaling at this point. I would take my journal down to the beach. This is when I was living in Byron Bay. And also at the time I had terrible social anxiety. I hated doing anything by myself. I'd always grown up doing stuff with other people, always around people. It was like my security blanket. So I know to many people it might be like, oh, going to the beach by yourself, like that's not a big deal. But for me, it was like, where do I look? Where do I sit? How do I act? Everyone's looking at me like, ah! Like, so we're matching loneliness with social anxiety. It was a time. So I got the guts up to one day just pack your towel in your bag, put your swimmers on, get your journal, bring a book, like just bring your headphones, go to the beach, just sit on the beach and like try and write some stuff. And this is where I started learning so much incredible things about myself. And this is why I love loneliness, because it really fucking pushes you to explore this person right here. So I started taking my journal down to the beach, and I sat there, and I remember being like, wow, okay, I'm here by myself, but the beach is beautiful. I'm blessed to be here in Byron Bay. I'm fucking 17 living here by myself. Like, how'd this happen? And I started, I guess, reflecting on the things I was really grateful for. So I guess I'm weaving in my tips and tricks through my story. But it started with, this is what I'm grateful for, and wow, like, look how far you've actually come, like, you should be proud of yourself. Like, I make a list of the people in my life that I knew weren't with me right now, but that I knew loved me and that I loved. And, you know, even at the time for me, my list was small. I had only a few close friends, but I would sit there and I would feel their energy, and I could send them my energy, and I just knew that even though they aren't here with me now, I am supported and I am loved. So that was important for me. I feel like my thoughts all over the place. I love how I've written notes, but I'm like, I'm just gonna blurt this all out to you right now. So we'll see how we go. I would firstly think about that, my gratitude stuff. I would write my gratitude list. Doing this takes you out of being in your head. It takes you out of like, poor me, I feel shit, I feel numb, into like, how amazing is life and how lucky am I to have these few things. So that's a great start. And then, so yeah, I started having these little beach dates with myself. I would walk myself down and take my journal, and I would let whatever came to mind just flow out onto the page. And I like to think of this as Cardia talking to Cardia. Like, I didn't know how else do you get to know yourself? How else can we form this conversation or learn if you're just two in your head? When you write things, I feel like this other person comes out. And you start writing stuff that you just like, whoa, I didn't even know you were thinking that. Or like, whoa, that's beautiful. Or whoa, like, I'm so sorry you had to go through that. And you start to see some issues that you might be holding on to, and things that need to be released. My story of how I started to get out of my head and start enjoying my loneliness, because so much beautiful stuff started being created from it. My connection to myself formed at this time, and like, I'm so grateful for it. Even when the loneliness, like, I guess you have a choice. It's like, do you let the loneliness eat you up and make you feel like a worthless piece of shit? Or do you think, this is an incredible opportunity that the universe is giving me right now to connect with the most important person in my life? And the thing is, we're born in a society where it's like, you're born into a family, or you have siblings, or you've got people constantly with you looking after you. Like, you go then to school, you're at school every day with hundreds of other kids. You go home to your family, like, you're brought up without any alone time. So that's also why I say to people, don't ever feel guilty or bad that you feel lonely. It's a new thing, especially if you're in your teens, your 20s, even when you're much older and then you're not around as many people. Like, everyone feels it, but it's not a bad thing. It's just something we have to like get familiar with and make our friend and use to our advantage, not let us feel like we are worthless for feeling this. I love loneliness. I now am very vocal, and I can express to anyone at any time if I'm feeling lonely. I know what to do now when I'm feeling lonely. So, I said this in a video, I think ages ago, or maybe I said on my Instagram stories, I can't remember. But one of my favorite things to do, and something that I did for years, and then I've forgotten about it now, but I need to probably do it more often because I think it's the most beautiful thing ever, and something that definitely helped me a lot. So when I would be sitting there and the panic of loneliness or the anxiousness would begin, if I had just finished hanging out with people and then I had to go home and I had like a whole night to myself, and I'm like, do I just watch Netflix all night? Like, what do I do? Like, also, before I keep going, just so you all know, this is very much just applies for me. Everyone might be different. Some people probably love loneliness. This is for people that struggle with loneliness, or just, I don't know. This whole video is going to be a massive ramble of me just talking. What I would do in those moments where I felt just about it all and a bit panicked is I started doing this thing. Because when I started obviously writing and talking to myself, I'm starting to form this connection. I sat there thinking, Katia, why do you never like hold yourself or touch yourself? I know this sounds weird, not like touch yourself like that, but I mean like this, or like this is you right here. And I did say this in a video ages ago, I'm almost positive, but one of the best things that started helping me was if I was sitting in bed at night or I've just woken up and I feel that feeling, I would just hold my hand, or I'd pat my hand, I'd hold my finger, just squeeze it, or my leg, or I'd just physically touch myself and be like, I'm here. Like, I'm right here with you. Like, sis. And at first this feels weird, but I truly believe I had the biggest epiphany when I started doing this shit. Because I was like, you are the most important person to me. I'm saying this to myself. Like, you are the most important person to me. We are best friends. Like, I am right here with you. I'm touching you right now. I'm holding your hand. I'm here. Like, please don't feel like you are alone because I'm here. And I think once I switched my view of me being this singular human that was alone, I started realizing that my human body and my physical self is one person, and then my spiritual being or my soul that lives on the outside of my body is someone else, and that is my guide. And this person that is talking to me, telling me, Katia, everything's okay, that is my soul guiding my physical body and saying, sis, I'm your best friend and I'm here and I've got you. So that's my wacky way of thinking about it. Everyone probably has a completely different view, but I just wanted to express that before we continue, because that really is such a big part of my life and actually how I live my life, which I'm also trying to come back to more now that I'm living by myself again, I'm experiencing loneliness again, is that, like, I know it sounds weird, but there's not one of me, there's two of me. There's my physical and then there's my soul, my spiritual body that is my guidance, my intuition, my everything. I hope I explained that properly. I don't know if that's really confusing, but I hope that made sense. So when I had this epiphany and I was like, all right, every day we're gonna hang with each other, we're gonna get to know each other, and we're gonna be okay. We're gonna start tapping into these things and trying to release the shit that not serving you. I don't want to digress too much into my whole spiritual journey, because this whole period of time was a massive spiritual awakening for me. But I mainly want to talk about my tips for loneliness. But I just want to highlight the fact that through loneliness and that time to look inwards, we can unlock a lot of incredible things within ourselves that actually end up allowing us to manifest the reality that we want to live properly and fully and like beautifully. So for me, I started journaling my heart away, sitting there in thought, meditating on the fact that I had been through X, Y, and Z, and these were the traumas living in my body. These were the things that have formed me, and this is why I do this thing, this thing, this thing. So it started highlighting to me a lot about myself that was, I guess, deep down trauma living within me. So as I started being able to release these things and accept these things, I could manifest everything I wanted into my life. I started sitting there acknowledging the fact that I'm deserving of amazing friends. I will meet like-minded people in Byron. I will get support here, and it's coming soon. Just don't give up. In the meantime, just hang with yourself and get to know yourself. Surely enough, within a very small window of time, I went to a party one night and I met one of my best friends that ended up being there in Byron with me. We ended up living together, like we're still friends now. Like I met heaps of amazing supportive friends. And every night after I'd finished hanging with these people, I'd go home and I had that practice in place, which was my journaling, my reflection. How do these people make me feel? Like, who am I now as a person? Like, what do I want to grow into, etc. And then any moments when I didn't have them to hang with, it was no longer such a big issue because I had faced a lot of my loneliness, and I could deal with it better and I could enjoy it more. So that's my little story about loneliness and I guess my experience with it. But now I obviously want to talk to you guys about practical ways that you can not feel as lonely, or maybe understand loneliness more. Like, I'm not exactly sure. I'm not going to be able to heal your loneliness in 1 second. It's all a practice. Dealing with loneliness and being okay with loneliness requires effort and requires a higher consciousness. So it's just about waking up to this whole other side of understanding something that society kind of deems as a bad thing, or that's scary, or that is like weak. I'm gonna give you guys some of my tips that I do when I'm having a night to myself or just a day to myself and I'm feeling a bit lonely. Also, we should so make a drinking game out of how many times I've said lonely and loneliness in this video. If I'm having a day to myself, those feelings come up. What I will immediately do firstly is get my journal out. My journal is my best friend. Write heaps about how I'm feeling, why I think I'm feeling this way, and also what I'm grateful for, just some things I'm excited that are coming up, etc. I will sit and remind myself that this is a temporary feeling and that my world is so abundant, everything can change in an instant and I can manifest the life I want. And even though right now I'm not feeling 100%, if I can focus on a light, positive feeling moving forward instead of a dark, negative one, I'm gonna get somewhere faster and happier and quicker. So I always reflect and say, this is temporary, this feeling will not last forever. And that's really important to know, because I know sometimes when I get lonely, it feels like the world is ending. And then what I'll do is I will either try and do something creative. So I might sit down and edit a video. I might try and write some poetry. You might like painting or collaging. I think the best thing to combat loneliness is to get really creative, because you're making something that you can be proud of. You're expressing this inner person or inner being of yourself. So for me, when I was dealing with loneliness, my YouTube channel was the best thing for me, because I focused my energy onto that. Like having a hobby, it made me feel like I had a sense of purpose, and it made me really proud of myself. So yeah, finding a creative hobby or something along the lines of that is like so important. Next, reading like self-development books helped me. It helped me with my inner journey and kind of like facing those things. So The Power of Now, as you guys know, is my fucking favorite thing. I have now tattooed on my wrist. That book got me out of my head. It got me living my life properly. It stopped that overthinking voice in my brain. So I highly recommend that if you haven't read it. I'll leave linked below. I actually have a YouTube video up already of like 9 books that changed my life. So getting into self-development books was incredible for me at this time, because it kind of made me feel like, oh, I'm not by myself. Everyone feels these ways, and this is just like a human development thing and like a spiritual awakening kind of shit show, so I'm good. So reading is powerful, or you might just like normal novels, fiction books, where you can kind of like escape and live in someone else's reality. But for me, I use Netflix. Even though I would get bored sometimes and I might feel guilty for it. If I was feeling really lonely, sometimes it's just kind of escaping through like a TV show would be really good, or getting into a series. For me, I watched a lot of documentaries because I found that they helped me learn and they helped me develop and grow, and they made me feel quite inspired. So that was really good for me at that time. What else? What am I forgetting? I would call my mum. So if I really felt like, you know, no one's here, no one's around, like calling someone and just talking on the phone. If you're living away from people, or whatever, just kind of talking about how you feel is really powerful, and getting reassurance and letting someone else comfort you. Even though lots of us don't like to do that, I find it very, very powerful, and I call and text my friends all the time and throw my emotions on them. But obviously don't feel guilty for doing that. If you're gonna be there to support someone, you need to let other people support you too. And that was the best thing I learned at this time, that I didn't always have to be strong, and I was allowed to lean on other people for support when I needed it. And that comes with practice. Like, that's a hard thing for a lot of us to do, because we want to be strong, we want to show everyone we got our shit together. But the minute I allowed myself to crumble and be okay with not being okay was when my life became a really fucking incredible place. What else? Exercise, I take myself for a walk, listen to music, get pumped up, it gets the endorphins running. You could possibly join a gym class, or kind of get involved in something with a group of people, or within a community if you want to meet new people. And another thing that really helped me was pushing myself outside of my comfort zone in terms of social situations, or going out and like communicating with people in the fucking real world, you know what I mean? So I used to be quite socially awkward with new people, so when I would get invited to a party, I would put in the effort to make new friendships and talk to new people, so I could not be as lonely and have more people around me. So I used to be so awkward with doing that, but I got really good at like just kind of striking up a conversation with someone new, or like if someone spoke to me, being really open-minded to getting to know them. Loneliness is great for self-care. So baths, face masks, making nice things, all of that stuff. There's plenty of things that you can do, but I will always come back to mainly saying that the best things you can do is just get to know yourself through that self-development stuff. So the journaling, meditating, all of that. Getting into nature really helped me a lot, because it just instilled this grounding energy into me. So being on the beach barefoot, sitting there, being in the ocean, it was just like a pure magic that washed over me. And I was like, there is so much more than just the way that you feel right now. And there is a whole world out there, and this is just one little moment in your life. And like, yeah, it's something, obviously everyone has a really incredible connection with nature in their own way, but for me the beach was a really powerful thing. And if you don't live by the beach, even just getting onto land, like onto grass and sitting, like you can find beauty in anything if you let your mind just drift and kind of get there. Okay guys, that is all I have to say for this video. I feel like I've been rambling for ages. I hope this all made sense, or that it resonated with some of you. These might just be my own personal things, but hopefully they can help. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time. Mwah!